I'm fully Dutch. I don't speak Spanish.
Oh, okay. No, I pictured you
Well,
as a Spanish person for some reason. Maybe it was the last name.
well, Sala is a very Spanish name.
Yeah.
Or is it from my families or Italian? But it's like 100 years ago.
Hmm.
Well, my Italian's pretty shitty. French is better, but
Hmm.
Spanish. So there's a little bit Mediterranean in there. There's some Indonesian in there. It's like it's a little bit of everything.
Or just whenever I see like a cool game that I come across, I try to contact people to see if they'd want to talk about it.
And that's how it works, man.
Yeah.
That's
And
how
I've been
it
playing
works.
the game for like 2 weeks now. It's a lot of fun.
Ah, glad to hear that.
Hmm.
And not everybody likes it, but seems to be
Yeah.
okay.
No, I didn't. I guess I had heard of it. I don't know through who, but then I just checked it out and it looked really cool. I love the flight mechanics are very. It feels really good.
Yeah, it's a game. It either feels really good or it feels slightly off. It's like
Hmm.
there's nothing for. I think that's got something to do with whatever games muscle memory you have.
Yeah,
Some
maybe
people
what you've played before.
are heavily into I don't know, shooters or especially really twitchy modern shooters, which rely heavy on muscle memory and just getting. Uh, there are so many games that do flying or third person action that adhere to that sort of battlefield as control scheme.
Hmm.
Where even flying in F-16 or whatever they're flying in Battlefield Tomcats is actually mouse WASD control oriented.
Yeah.
Uh, and the Falconeer doesn't do any of that. So for some people, it's a switch. For anybody that's played a lot of flying games, it sort of clicks.
Hmm.
So it's done okay. It's done okay. It's got decent exposure.
Hmm.
It's got some critical acclaim, and I'm really happy with how it went.
Yeah. No, it reminds the flight reminds me of the last two Star Wars games, Squadrons and Battlefront games,
I
kind of.
have played for yeah. I tried to play a little bit of Squadrons
Hmm.
because it's on Game Pass. I haven't gotten really into it,
Yeah.
but I can see how that works. 'Cause things like Tie Fighter, the one
Hmm.
made from the '90s, really big influence. So there's lots of Star Warsy vibes in the visuals. And sometimes I look at it and go, yeah, that's when one of those big airships comes through the clouds and then those
Yeah.
red and blue legs. I go, ah, that's so Star Wars. Yeah, I agree. That is a good place to be.
um, you want to give a description of the game, I guess, like the pitch.
Um, so the Falconeer, uh, it's an open world air combat game.
Hmm.
Uh, so for players, I think its closest resembles like Crimson Skies.
Hmm.
It's fantasy. It's arcade flight models. It's a bit strange. So that was definitely something a little bit recent people can connect it to. Uh, we just mentioned it has a bit of a Star Wars feel.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's sort of set in a sort of steampunk ocean world. I don't know if it's properly steampunk, but it's pretty hard sci-fi rather than fantasy. So there's no magic and stuff. There's pretty outrageous stuff, but it's all sort of technological rather than magical. Um, it's a game I developed by myself, so it's a solo developed game. I've been working on it for I don't know 4 or 5 years.
Well.
The pandemic made everything a blur because I
Hmm.
was at some point I was still working, so it was all evenings and stuff. How do you count that? So it's um, and it's a very personal game. So for people that play it, it is when you look at it, it's an action-filled open world with lots of relaxed exploration. People flying on giant birds. That's why it's called the Falconeer. That's
Hmm.
probably a big ingredient. But if you dig a little deeper to the story, it's kind of quite a long story. Might have made it a bit shorter in the future, but it's got a long-winded story with lots of set pieces with topics that deal, with escapism and having to deal with, the choices made in your own past and the choices made in the past of your tribe, clan, whatever. In the consequence of history. So it's a very political game in a way.
Oh,
So that's it. You're flying on a giant bird, doing Game of
yeah.
Thrones esque stuff, and I've heard some people call it. Uh, it's the game of what would have happened if Gandalf had sent in the eagles to pick up the pieces. So it's that. It's giant eagles with people on top and lasers.
Mm-hmm.
What's not to love?
No, and I love the opening is very cinematic, and it goes through it like every time that it's like you're watching a show or a movie in the beginning, and it says created by Tomas Sala and like the credits. But I like it's kind of like when you're watching a show on Netflix, like some shows you skip the opening, but then some of them you don't.
Oh yeah,
Like when you're watching Game of Thrones, you're like, I want to see if they
yeah. I
added
was just
something
gonna say
new.
with the yeah. And you hope every time something different is on. Oh, do
Yeah.
a new episode or something. Uh, so yeah, oh, and the opening is. I like the opening as well. I don't know why it turned out as good as that it did, but it's got a lot of oomph, and I think that credit to it. A lot of that is with the scoring. So the music is then done by Benedict Nichols,
Hmm.
which is quite a well-known English indie game composer. He's done Omno, and if you look him up, he's done a bunch of indie games.
Yeah.
Everybody knows, and he's really gone to really put out an amazing soundtrack for the game, and that cinematic intro just really goes boom, boom, boom. You go, yeah, it's like
Hmm.
yeah. Sometimes it's my favorite thing. I put it on and go, oh yeah, yeah. It's not entirely silent. It's pretty good. Look at the intro. Uh, but I think one of the things I am super into is landscapes, designing landscapes and having a landscape have a certain emotion. I love stuff. If you now that we're talking about that first time you see the wall,
Hmm.
this big perspective, Scotty. Wow, that is a epic vista, and it's lonely and desolate and dangerous. And I like those kinds of epic vistas is probably the right word. Those epic landscapes. Um, and the Falconeer is filled with that. There's this cities and fortresses, and there's always clouds, and and then airships come out of that. So I think the cinematic bits for the it's and you see it in the cinema intro. There's lots of atmosphere. At least I've tried to. That helps making feel cinematic.
Yeah. No, there's the one part. I'm still in the first, I guess, level or the first world
The first
with,
chapter, yeah.
yeah, the first chapter. And there's the part where the sea is like kind of split, that it goes down and the sea is like
Oh,
open.
the mall, yeah.
Yeah. When I came across
Yeah,
that the first time, I was like, that's super cool.
yeah, yeah.
And then
People go, what the
I just
fuck is
started
this?
like flying through it just to see it close up.
Yeah, and actually, the first chapter, the story is rather tame. So
Hmm.
I at some point when the feedback came in, I had thought of just ditching it because it's actually pirates, and it's about just explaining how bleak the world. It's a pretty dark game.
Hmm.
The dark choices people have to make to survive in that game. And then all the epic stuff only happens at the end. And then in the next chapter, there's giant crab cities, nuclear weapons. I don't want to spoil it, but
Yeah.
it goes off the rails. And that mall, that ocean, I don't know, water canyon basically,
Hmm.
it's a huge part of the story. Where did it come from? What is it? Um, so that is, you'll get that reveal at the end of chapter 3, I think.
Hmm.
Uh, so it's a game that takes its with all the extra content. I believe the core game, to see all the story and voice stuff, it's like 14 to 16 hours, which
Yeah.
man,
There's a lot of stuff
not
on there.
everybody's into that. I didn't expect it to be like that. I thought, oh, people will zoom to chapter 1 and just take 2 hours to finish it.
Hmm.
Well, big mistake. Uh, because it takes people quite a long time to learn game and so. But it's all in all, I like that it's there, and you're free to skip to chapter 2 and have a little bit look ahead and then go back to chapter. I'm not one for convention, so uh, uh, I don't. It's a nice mind fuck. Can I swear?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a nice mind fuck for people that if you play for the first four missions, you go, oh, this is only going to be like escort missions and patrols, and then you play chapter two and chapter three. It's like holy fuck, this is taking it in an entirely different direction. I kind of enjoyed that, so I kept it in.
Yeah. Um, no, then well, you said how you created the game on your own. I guess did you outsource stuff other than the music and the well, there's voice
Um,
acting music and
well, voice acting and music. I'm not a musician, so I so I have a publisher that helps. So they
yeah.
do lots of QA, so testing the game, quality assurance, make sure there's no bugs, in, as far as that humanly possible.
Hmm.
So that's a huge asset to have. There's some knocking on my door when I don't deliver on time and transparent, so that helps. And but everything in the game, so every animation, every 3D model, every shader, I'm really tech art heavy. So all the technical art, all the animation, all the AI coding, gameplay coding, menu coding, mission coding, all that stuff I did myself.
Hmm.
Uh, but for the porting, which is the part where the game is mostly finished and you need to bring it from, let's say, Xbox to PlayStation and to Nintendo Switch or to Luna. It's on Amazon
Oh.
Luna. It's
Hmm.
on Cloud. It's on. It's basically on everything, and every time you launch a game to a different platform, you have to adhere to very strict rules with
Yeah.
regards to saving, cloud saving. Error messages are different per platform. Load times. Every platform has different. On PlayStation, it needs to load quicker than on Switch, and stuff like that. For that, I've had help from Stefan Weinker, who's an expert at porting. So it
Okay.
was the bit I went, I love making the game. I'm not in love with doing all that,
Hmm.
filling in thousand forms, figuring out, how cross save works between PlayStation 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Um, I'm way too chaotic for that, so I can bang my head and make visual stuff and gameplay and shooty stuff and add enemies and stuff. But sitting down and reading a manual that's 600 pages and then
Hmm.
chalking off a huge
Yeah. Trying
giant
to
list of
figure it
what I
out.
need to. So that the porting, I had a lot of help with from Stefan, who's fantastic.
Hmm.
And that's it, then the voice actors and Benedict who did the music.
Hmm.
So for 4 years, it's been just me, and then for the last year and a half, it's been me and Benedict.
And
Well, a little longer than that, doing the music, and then last summer, Stefan came on board to do the porting for all the platforms that were going to be released. Game
hmm.
Pass, everything that came after.
Yeah. Um, I guess, and then when you start making the game, if you're doing everything, do you start with like concept art or a story,
No, I just start making.
or you just start going at it?
Yeah, I couldn't work in the studio anymore because that is completely unacceptable behavior. I don't, I don't think I had that much. I have lots of intuition, but there's. I've said it before. So J.R.R. Martin, because we're on Game of Thrones. I watched a lot of videos on him on the storytelling, on writing, and in one video he said when people make writers, there's architects and there's gardeners.
Hmm.
So there's people like J.R.R. Tolkien who will write down, the language, the family trees of everything in Middle Earth. He's like an architect. It all fits together, and then he starts to tell a story. And J.R.R. Martin said, "I'm more like a gardener, so I'll have a rough outline and I'll start working it, and then I'll see, oh, this person is actually trying to interest in further. Let's give him a little side adventure. Let's see how it goes, and if he stops being interested, we'll let him die. That's why I guess lots of people die within these kind of stories. I'm definitely a gardener type of. So I started the Falconeer. I had some art assets from an older game which I never finished over on Scored, including a dragon
Hmm.
and some landscapes I was fiddling with. I like making tech art, and I was just trying to make a beautiful day-night cycle. I thought, that looks good. Well, let me put a camera on this little dragon. I know I have dragon swords. Put in a dragon flying around. Ah, that's interesting. And I remember I love flying games. Flying, I love making landscapes, and I love flying games. So something like so with a little light bulb with boom. let's make a flight game. I can make all the landscapes. It's cool to fly through. It's like perfect.
Hmm.
And then I will do boom, add shooty stuff because why not? I thought, okay, air combat, open world, fly game, fantasy. And then I had to look and I went, oh well, but dragons is so cheesy. I mean, you might have seen season 4 or 5 of Game of Thrones. I'm not sure. So I was off dragons. So I made a bird. And a bird with a dude with a gun on it, like
Yeah.
I made it. I put it in there, and the first time I played, I just flew around. Super simple camera, super simple physics. I go, this rocks. It's like X Factor stuff. You suddenly go, "Oh, this is gonna be good."
Hmm.
And then it just evolved from there. And you just do every bit, and I actually by the time November 2020 came around, I didn't, there were bits I still wanted to do. I did those over the last 8 months, and then now in the latest version. Uh, but it sort of evolves. You have a rough idea, and then you do something, and then you know you'll have. I literally dream about stuff. I'll go to bed,
Yeah.
and then when I wake up, just to, I'll wake up, and just the first few hours that before you're or maybe it's 30 minutes because time is weird when you're waking up. Just before you're really awake, you go, giant crab city. Yeah. And so I go, okay. And then I'll walk around, I will walk the dogs and at night and go, giant crab city. How did that work? Can do that. That's pretty. I'll be like a boss. Yeah, be really big. Okay. It's from people have a little town on top of it. Yeah, they might live underwater. All right. And I'll have a sort of visual, and I'll go make it. I'll stick it
Hmm.
in the game and go, it's interesting. Now to fit it in. I'll find a way to adapt the
Yeah.
story to make room for it, and that drives an entire faction of the story. Are people that live underwater because someone chased them down there, and now they're pissed. Well, it's actually a pretty good storyline. Let's see what else they got. So you'll sort of not stumble, but you'll sort of Bob Ross it.
Hmm.
You just take brave little steps and throw them. Maybe a tree lives there. I don't know. If it's not a tree, it can be a rock. Fuck it. There's no mistakes, only happy accidents.
Yeah.
I love Bob Ross. I get that. So I do that a lot. You'll have made something. I remember at some point I made a flying manta ray. It wasn't cool enough just flying around shooting stuff because they had a little cockpit, and it looked like a Devastator, like a World War II carrier torpedo bomber. So
Hmm.
that had this long cockpit. It does need, a tail gunner or a dorsal gunner, even better, on a Manta. So and I'll make that, and okay, that works really well. I've got now, an enemy that flies around shooting you, and it's got a little turret on the back shooting you, so which is a nice step up. And suddenly you've got turrets. You go, oh, I've got turrets. Okay, then you need a system, to sub-target a turret, so you can shoot off the turret, and has its own health points and critical hits and stuff. Once you finish doing that, you go, I've got turrets. I can make a battleship. And so there's these things you sort of guess, but there's bits where you're just going along by the own logic of what your game needs, and then you make it. And sometimes you make huge mistakes, and the fishing in the game, you can pick up fish and eat
Hmm.
it. Is it like such a badly filled out mechanic? It's actually just my initial thought. I'll make a healing mechanic where you have to
Yeah.
catch a fish, then land, and then you'll eat it. And if you land at a shrine, it'll give you special powers. Sounds cool in theory.
Hmm.
Totally crap in a dogfight. You were, oh shit, I have to leave the action, find a fish somewhere. I think I played it for a day and went, this is garbage. Okay, that's gone. And I just added a simple auto heal. If you're not being shot at, you go,
Hmm.
which is a nice, every modern game has that
Yeah.
for a reason. Um, so I did that, and then I still had a fully functioning fishing. Leave it in because people love fishing. It's like petting
Yeah.
a dog. So there's lots of you leave things by the wayside which don't work, and other things to just do, and then you see where the ship ends, preferably.
Hmm. I think
It's
working on your
awesome.
own and being in charge of the story and like all the art direction and everything makes it easier to be like, oh, I added this, but now I have to come up
Oh
with the
yeah,
story instead of
yeah,
having two
yeah.
separate people and like the art director comes.
Yeah,
I
I go to the, I go. Hey Thomas, flying eels. You're up for it?
yeah.
Oh yeah. That's about all the bureaucracy and hierarchy that we have over it, and I love that. That is super free, and the fact that I can now do that for another 3 years to make a new game is a bloody privilege, to be honest. To
Hmm.
wake up to, okay, I'm gonna do this, and hopefully out there somebody will like it. Uh, that's great. You want to do that every day of your life. Of course,
Yeah.
you've got to make money and you gotta do all the things, but at the core, there's a huge part of what I do where I just wake up and go, "What are we gonna do today, Thomas? I don't know. You tell me."
Hmm. Well, I guess, or I would see the when I was flying around, just the whole world is really cool. But I would see when I first saw like whales jumping out of the water and stuff, I would just like track around and like keep watching. There's just all
Me
this cool
too, man.
stuff going on in the
There's
world.
a little secret there as well in the last update. Mm. I can't spoil it, but
Hmm.
it's a way little secret. No, there's an entire story for whales which I never got around to doing, with whalers and stuff. But whales are cool, yeah. And I do enjoy that visual of the whale popping up.
Yeah.
It's quite photogenic.
Hmm. And the photo mode is really cool. Did you build the photo mode, or that was the
Well,
like the other
the
guy
photo
helped you with
mode.
that?
Well, what happens at some point? I got a publisher. So 2 years ago, we signed a contract, and okay, we're going to publish a game. It's a year or 2 years. It's all. Uh, and then but before that I was also doing lots of Twitter, because if you're by yourself an indie dev, that's one of the only channels you have is showing
Hmm.
off your game, showing off your game, showing off your game, until you get sick of it. And initially you start doing it by just pausing your game, taking a cool screenshot, because those screenshots never, it's a and then initially you're just doing in editor and then presenting that it's in game. But at some point, you just want to take pictures of your game really fast. So, I thought, okay, fuck it, I'll have to make a little photo mode. So I made a little photo mode. Just press this button and everything pauses. And then I hate when motion is not fluid. Can't
Hmm.
stand it in games. I want everything to be
Hmm.
smooth. So I looked at the camera. Okay, I'll give it a smooth camera. So I made this. It's too smooth for lots of gamers who want it dark, but for me, I love it when it's like whisking around the world smoothly. And I made it, and I made a button to save the screenshots, and then I made a button to forward time a little bit so I can make animated gifs of
Hmm.
what was happening. And I used that for 6 months just for marketing.
Yeah.
Just create in-game. I was playing around. Oh, this cool thing. Oh, man, look nice. An explosion of a boat while the dragon's on top. But okay. Photos. Screenshot that. So it's an internal tool, and then it's a no-brainer to put in a little bit. And it's not the most polished tool. You can't rebind the keys for the photo mode and stuff like that. You can for everything else you get. But it's there, and people use it, and people enjoy it a lot.
Hmm.
Uh, it is fun to do, and I think the strange thing about Falcon is because it's not a graphically detailed game. It's not some triple A hyper photoreal game. It's very stylized.
Hmm.
But when you take high res screenshots of it on your Series X or on your PC, actually, it looks like if you print it out. I have posters, not here.
Hmm.
It looks like print artwork, like album covers and stuff. It's really graphical with sharp angles. Um, and then sometimes it doesn't do it judgment, justice. It doesn't do it justice unless you're actually looking at it and go, oh, it's quite pretty at moments.
Hmm.
Which even I go, oh, okay, no, it's not false modesty. I'm really happy that it's very pretty. And it makes for interesting photos, and people love that. And it's if you do a game, you should have a photo mode.
Yeah.
It's too especially if visuals are part. If you're making something which is about story and minimalist art, perhaps not. Even then, possibly. But if you're doing a 3D world in which you spend effort to make it attractive, give people a photo mode.
Hmm. No, it's weird that every photo mode is different, but usually you'll get in there and like figure it out after a little while, and then you'll just
Yeah,
get used to it.
I think because it's they always delegate it to the people that wait aren't doing all the game design. Okay, you
Yeah.
go do photo mode. So some programmer who might not have played a game with photo mode imagines how photo mode should be, and then that's what they use.
Hmm.
Because even in the biggest companies, sometimes there's a deadline. And do we have a photo mode? Yeah. That guy over in engineering did some photo mode. So oh yeah, slap an interface on it and sell it. All right,
Hmm.
done. That's how it goes.
No, I've been playing on the PS5, and it has the haptic feedback and adaptive triggers, which
Mm.
I'm guessing they helped you do that. But how far along was the game when you found out about like the new technology of the new consoles, I guess, and throw it?
Uh, so it was an Xbox Series XS launch title officially. So it came out November 10th, 20th. I forget.
Hmm.
When the Xbox and PlayStation that week. Um, that was pretty hectic. That was because you're just you're the smallest possible fish on the launch schedule, as it were. So I think we had the hardware not like in the summer. So we had a couple of months for Xbox to do everything. Um, and it was amazing with Health of Microsoft what we got in. So it's got HDR, full HDR, full 120 FPS at 1800p. It's got lots of extra graphics features, and it's all lit for. It's got Dolby Atmos surround. It's like uh, pretty amazing. And some of that transferred over to PlayStation fairly easily.
Hmm.
Some things are more difficult, especially because I didn't have access to the PlayStation hardware when I made the game,
Yeah.
when the core of development was done. The haptics is fairly elegantly done. And Stefan helped with that. Stefan is he's the porting master. Said okay, I can do that. The haptics. I already done all the force feedback on Microsoft. Um, and then yeah, actually the haptics. I think the most difficult part of it is just getting it done, and then we did lots of QA sessions with the publisher, and you can, if you're a developer, you can make that little. It's like a little motor in there.
Hmm.
It's just going. You can make it hit the plastic if you go too fast. You can make it physically go. It's like if you go to 11 on the little thing, you can make it wobble and do stuff you don't want to do it. And it's because it's vibrations, you can have it's waves. So sometimes you can find its wave and it gets bigger and worse. It starts resonating. So there is how do you call it? I'm looking for the word. You don't want to go all out on the haptics. I think
Yeah.
people discovered that really good early that some games were just ripping apart, not ripping apart, but giving it too much,
Hmm.
and it's bad for your controller. I think that's it came out long enough that we saw that happening, and the haptics could be not modest, subtle enough so that it never hits anything nasty,
Yeah.
so you
No,
don't
I
get
feel like
bad sounds and stuff. Beyond that, it was I think the haptics are fun. It's just a fun addition. I think it's actually a great addition to the PlayStation. Uh, and I think when Microsoft saw it, they went, "Fuck, we need this."
yeah.
Good.
No, I think the best games are or the games that like use it the best are the ones where you feel it at first, but then you just get used to it. Like I've been playing
Yeah.
Control on the PS5, and when you shoot, I think halfway you feel like it get tougher, and then you shoot. And at first it was like this is really cool, but then you're just used to it.
Yeah, but then you notice when it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
It's one of those features. I think it will be default on many games on console. It's you know, it's kind of fun. People go because I also like these units nobody likes. Oh, here we go.
Oh.
Portations. And people go, yeah, mouse keyboard. It's the ultimate controller. I go, yeah, okay. You got to check out some haptics, man.
Hmm.
'Cause that's even just basic vibration force feedback is such an addition to a game.
Hmm.
and you should never notice it, but it does add a layer of tension sometimes.
Yeah.
But I've always loved vibration. It's fantastic.
No, it's very
Whatever.
cool. um, and I guess
Don't put that in a GIF. I always love vibration.
and the for the voice actors, I guess how did you find them? Did you audition a bunch of
I
people
hired, yeah, the publisher set
or
me up with
Wired
Mikey
helped?
Goodman, who is also one of the voice actors in Disco Elysium.
Mm-hmm.
He's the Scarf, I believe. Uh, and he's what's the word? A voice director. He's also the lead singer in Sixth, which is a decently well-known British metal band.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's a voice artist in many ways. And he found all the actors and directed them, and we had lots of sessions with Mikey on, what the characters should be, and for the last for the PlayStation version, we actually re-recorded a lot of uh, voices because there was some Cockney accents and people coming and commenting that it was very cliche, how do you call it,
Mm-hmm.
stereotypical, which
No.
is definitely not intended. They're all supposed to be British accents. So we replaced some voices with the same actors who did voices
Yes.
closer to their natural accent.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds really good as well. So a lot of efforts been made to make the voices, sound decent. It's sometimes they can be a little bit funny. I think that's good in
Yeah,
games
some
because
of
it's
them are more silly and then some are really serious, but
some are more serious.
I like that.
Yeah, in chapter two, there's the guy that gives you the mission. Is like he's got the darkest voice. When you listen to it, it has to be the grungiest person you've ever met. It's like holy shit. It's his name's Chris Lyons, and his voice like he's been smoking cigars for 40 years or been a drill instructor, and now he's it's a fantastic richness of voice, and those are great finds. I'd never done that voice acting, so it was a lot of fun hearing what can happen. And then when I got the voices, normally you create characters and find a voice that matches it
Hmm.
if you have the budget and the time in the world. Um, because I made the portrait engine procedural, I can generate infinite portraits. Just all kinds of skin tones and hairstyles and outfits, and I just ran. Uh, so this time I would get the voices and then I pick a
Yeah,
portrait and
it
fit the
randomly.
voice differently, which worked reasonably well, I guess.
Hmm. No, I guess since they're not like close up and moving, it's usually a picture of the person.
No,
So
they're
it's
for people that don't know, they're just up here
yeah.
in a little frame, sort of radio chatting to you. So you
Hmm.
never see giant close-up characters in the game. I think that's truly something when you make a game by yourself or a micro team or a small indie team. Uh, I don't think it makes sense to start emulating all the production values of AAA games. That is their, zone. If I want to spend $60, I love those games.
Yeah.
And I look forward to giant set pieces where everything's acted and all that stuff. And that's I don't think as an indie, you make something a little bit more artistic, something strange and different. That is what you should be focused on, not on
Hmm.
trying to make a triple game a game.
Yeah.
You really can't compete. So
But this feels
hence
like
there
a
are no close-ups or lots of cutscenes. There's a few cutscenes, but modestly.
feels like a big indie game to me. Like when I'm playing it, like it feels like a team probably built it. When I
Lots of people say that I'm quite proud of that field because it's what I love. I do like a good set piece. I don't need everything of triple A game, but I do want people to have that buzz where it's something, especially if you got later in the game, you come with you want spoilers or should I warn you or are you still
um
playing?
no, I guess I'll
There's going to be a couple
maybe
of
a little.
you. Well, there's going to be some weapons of mass destruction at some point where you go fuck, and then the music comes in and it's cinematic and
Hmm.
it's epic. You know, uh, you can be epic with the slightest of budgets. Every anime or you know even comic book can tell you how to be epic. It's in the framing, it's in the music, it's in the timing of things. And I'm really proud that people feel that it has epic moments that feel like it's punching above its weight.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, thanks. I'll take that compliment.
And then how did you find Benedict Nichols for the music? Were you a fan of his and you reached out to him, or you kind of knew
No, what
him?
happened is, oh, it's something I won't ever do again because
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of work for hire in another life, and I hated pitches where you'd have to compete against others and you walk away with nothing. Uh, and the client, if they're just cherry picking, it's picking, and then they're no, they're I don't like that. But what happened this time is that I got inundated. I was putting stuff online very early,
Yeah.
and people were just throwing themselves at it to make music, and it made me really uncomfortable because it kept happening. And I thought, okay, I need to, when I had after I'd secured. Because when I stopped at my old studio, I walked away. I only had money for a couple of months. Uh, it was just like a hail mary. So we're gonna make a game. I can't do. I had a burnout. I couldn't. I don't want this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So we were having discussions, at the kitchen tables. How we're gonna. I've got three kids. One when we started. Well, the first one happened during when I started leaving, uh, doing this by myself, and then
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft stepped in and made a deal for exclusivity, which allowed me to work for a year and a half, 2 years, which made the game possible. And then I had some money to hire a musician. I went, okay, what am I gonna do? And I just asked everybody, and then and people. I said, well, I've got these 10 musicians that want to make music, and they said, well, we'll make we'll make a little track, and they all started just throwing tracks at me. I said, okay, I'm just gonna pick one from
Mm-hmm.
these, and what Benedict I'd given everybody said, well, and apparently this is normal, but again, it's bad. I don't want to ever do it again because you should find a musician, do the work yourself, investigate someone, build up a relationship, and then work with them
Mm-hmm.
without having them to fucking jump through hoops for work. So that's all. So but I gave everybody a pitch. There's a band called God, I'm gonna have to look quickly on my Spotify. I had this Mongolian throat singing.
Oh.
And it was there was one song which was really fantastic. Engschligen. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's actually a band that lives in Germany and their Mongolian heritage.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a few songs. One called Hartai Salag, and it's very modern. And then it has throat singing, and it's epic.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. I'll read it out once more. It's called Hartai Salag by Engschligen. Engschligen, and it's EGSCH at start. So type it in Spotify, you can find
Mm-hmm.
it. Harta is alive, and I thought it was a beautiful song, and I gave him that and Pursuit by Gustavo Stein, which is a French producer who makes really hard fucking electronic music.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, those two things. I want. Can we do the hybrid of that? And Benedict came up with something that was very unique sounding. That did that, which definitely wasn't ethnic Mongolian or anything, but it had that throat singing sound, which also Celtic music has. So it pieced together all these inspiration to make its own thing. So and that we met at Develop in Brighton, Develop Brighton,
Mm-hmm.
and we had pizza and hit it up, and yeah, okay, let's do this. We worked like crazy together for like a year and a half, like if not longer, just non-stop. And it's been a blast. I think I'll do every game now on with him because he's
That's good.
fantastic. He's
Yeah.
done Omno and God, let me Google what else. Omno, which came out just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He did Before We Leave and read well, a bunch of other stuff. Savior, I think this people might know that. Well, if you look on it, it's insane. He's done so much music. So that's how I found him. It's just
Mm-hmm.
through the internet, and for most of the time we only met once, and it's all done, because of COVID. I couldn't travel
Yeah.
over Skype and Discord, mostly Discord.
Mm-hmm. No, I talked to one game developer the other day that he said they were doing the same, like looking for someone to make music for their game, and then the person he picked was someone who was like actually interested in the game and asked questions, like the only
Yeah,
one instead of
definitely,
just throwing.
definitely. Yeah, that's it's people. He wants, Benedict. I think he's racked up a couple of thousand hours playing the game. He also still enjoys it, and he,
Hmm.
was curious about what was coming next. And getting into the environment. It's a long-term, intimate relationship. It's a creative partnership, and you really need to, enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you can't fake that, hopefully, or it's not healthy. You should make music for the games you love, and yeah, if that works, you drive each other to greater heights.
Hmm.
I'd say.
No, it's always cool to have people work on stuff they actually care more than someone
Yeah,
who doesn't care.
our philosophy is having done, being someone else's, paid gun,
Hmm.
gun for hire for someone. Um, the best clients you can have are the people that say, "Well, I trust you. You are the professional. If I give you the space to make something cool, will you make it cool?" And then yes, you make it cool. If you're gonna micromanage or say, "I want this," and the other
Hmm.
person, "Wow, look, I've got this," and they're enthusiastic about it. If you're a good creative partner or a good client, you will allow that other person to explore their creative threads, even though it might not be what you imagined. But if you let them go and stimulate them, you will get the best output. Because when someone is playing around and creative and free, you get the best work, rather than um, you know dictating what you want. And I don't know. Lots of people don't understand that very simple mechanism when hiring anybody.
Hmm.
If it's a builder or anybody, if you can give people the trust, and the freedom to make what they think is best choices. Well, trust, you need to earn trust, but especially experienced people, creative people, you got to give them the space, and they'll fly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, I guess, some questions about yourself
All right.
and being a, I guess, what was your intro to games? Like, how did you start, and maybe what consoles or
Uh,
games you remember as a kid?
well, I am 44. I'm going turning 45 in 1967. So I remember Elite, like the original vector art Elite, and all that stuff. We had Amigas and Commodore 64s. We had MSX, which I don't think was huge in the US. Those local weird, pre 8-bit SNES era, Atari game PCs.
Hmm.
Uh, Games that it made an impact on me. Elite was huge for me, but the Shara Adventures, TIE Fighter, stuff like that. And I've always been more of a PC gamer mostly, so yeah, pick most PC games. I think that then you go up a long ways. You get into 3D gaming and games like Homeworld, but I was already sort of in school for interaction design and art school by then. Um, Ace Combat, Skyrim is so I'll go back to those are the games I played.
Hmm.
And I always wanted to make games. So I remember drawing stuff in Corel Draw and in 3D Studio, like the first one. Someone brought an illegal version. In my era, if you didn't go online and download a torrent, but someone had to bring on a tape streamer, and it had like 100 illegal games and softwares and stuff like that. This is 80s stuff, late 90s.
Hmm.
And someone had like installed 3D Studio. We didn't know it was, but it was actually the precursor to 3D Studio Max and Maya. I remember they had this troll file you could load. It was a troll stomping around, just a walk cycle, and it was all simple sphere objects. Imagine something that would fit GTA 3. Like the first one. Like, that's fucking rude. But then it took a day to render. And
Hmm.
I would just sit there and go, wow, that is so
Hmm.
Uh, so I draw. I always drew lots of stuff. I can't draw anymore because it's a skill you lose. if you don't use it. Um, but and then Coral Draw and stuff, and then there was I went to college in 1996, and there wasn't any game schools. There's no
Mhm.
full sail or full set game development or game art courses like this now. So I went and did interaction design at the art school, local art school, which was about making websites and
Mhm.
multimedia and
Mhm.
CD-ROMs and all that shit. So that was fun, and I just made games from that. I was just making games by myself. Why make a
Yeah.
fucking CD-ROM about stuff? I want to make games. And after that, with me and three guys founded, including my brother, the studio called Little Chicken Game Company, which I did for 17 years, which mostly work for hire stuff and that stuff. But then around 2013, I did a Skyrim mod. So this is where gamers go. Sorry, you had to list all that boring stuff.
Mhm.
I did a Skyrim mod. People might remember it called Moonpath to Elsewhere, which was a pretty big mod. I had a couple of million downloads, and it's still, I think, on all the list of the most, it was the jungle mod for Skyrim. So when people went, "Whoa, a jungle mod for icy Skyrim," and it
Mhm.
had deserts and stuff. I'm trained 3D artist, so it's just having fun. Oh, look, here's some palms and stuff. Oh, yeah, and I can make snow yellow, and it doesn't look like piss. It looks like sand. Let's make a desert. So I was having fun in my spare time modding this shit, and it opened me up to the idea that I could make stuff for entertainment instead of being, a gun for hire,
Mhm.
doing stuff for education and stuff for advertising. Um, and from then on, I started working evenings on game stuff, and eventually had a burnout, and then wanted to go back or something, and that became the Falconeer.
Mhm.
So I think my entertainment gaming career started with a Skyrim mod. Not a very good one, but a very entertaining one.
Yeah. And then you've been, so I guess you went to school for art, but you sort of taught yourself a bunch of the gaming stuff
Yeah,
just by doing it.
yeah, you just do it. You
Mhm.
teach yourself. There've always been 3D engines since in this century, at least, that are very capable.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, you can teach yourself a lot. I still do that. That means sometimes I got confused by technical terms. I worked with a lot of good programmers during my studio days. Learned a lot from them how to structure games, set up, the more complicated systems, the architecture as well. That's something a trained programmer can be quite useful, just to get to grips with how to do that. Beyond that, most of it's, self-taught. Yeah,
Mhm.
can be
And then
limiting, but it is fun.
how big was the were the teams you were working with in like these big
Uh,
studios?
I think the biggest thing I did was usually about 8 people. I think the biggest thing we did over there was a PSVR exclusive for Sony. So which Sony published called TrackLab
Mhm.
in 1980, 2018, not 1918, which was a fun music creation toy game for PlayStation VR. I don't think anybody's played it. I once met Sean Murray. He said he played it because he wasn't into VR at the time. I think that's the only one person that might have actually bought it. So, but that's the biggest. So those were at some point with 12 people, and I sucked at leading those kinds of teams because as you can tell, I'm quite energetic and high energy, and that makes for shitty leadership or shitty management. And I hate management, so you suck at it. So that burned me out because you start disappointing people around you, you disappoint yourself. It's frustrating for everybody, and then that became too much. I sort of crashed, and then I said, well, I'll go make stuff for myself because that makes me happy.
Yeah.
It
No,
does.
that's very cool. And do you have, I guess, what are your hobbies outside of games or
I
making
have three
games?
kids. I have no
Just
hobbies.
kids,
Uh,
just family.
I have a big SUV. I like to drive fast. Again, don't read that. Well, you can. Fuck it.
And then what's your favorite genres of games or games to play?
I personally I love strategy games a lot. I love big, expensive, like big open world RPGs.
Hmm.
Uh, really looking forward to Starfield. Skyrim, of course. I love The Witcher. I think I
Yeah.
adore it. People give CD Projekt a lot of flat, but there was a reason we all loved them. Because The Witcher 3 was probably the best game we've ever
Hmm.
seen so
I
far.
played it. I played it years later, and it was still like amazing.
Yeah, and if you play the expansion, the Blood and Wine expansion is better than most games. It's like an entire game itself. So I have a lot of respect. I'm still looking forward to Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I have it. I'm just waiting. I'm letting
Yeah, I'm
them
just waiting
figure it
for it
out,
to
and
and then
then.
it will be an enjoyable, epic experience. I'm convinced of it.
Hmm.
I go into the local big media market technology stores, and it'll be number one hot selling still. I went in like last week, and there's stacks of it's Cyberpunk still at best selling game of
Oh.
this week or this month or whenever they swap it around. So I think they're doing fine. And
Hmm.
it's a shame the way things went, but there's a good game underneath there, and I'll happily enjoy it in a couple of months.
Yeah, I think they could fix it, and people will forget about everything probably
I
after a
don't
few
know
years.
if it does No Man's Sky style turnaround, but I think there's
Yeah.
already a game underneath there. It's story driven. It just needs to be. I guess what people annoyed was that the suspension of disbelief broke down due to the bugs, where you can't believe where you're not immersed in the game
Hmm.
because you look behind you and cars disappear. That is unfortunate at the very least, and I do think they have something for to apologize for. But those things are fixable,
Yeah.
and they are doing that. So better late than never.
Hmm. Do you have like a good set of game developer friends there then from when you worked, or like a
Yeah,
good
I got a
community
lot of yeah.
in your area?
Yeah, game developer communities tend to be very nice, tight knit. So I've got lots of friends here in the Netherlands, and I've met lots of solo developers and people who reach out to me, and that's been great. So there's a these communities are very tight knit.
Hmm.
So we're all cheering when someone goes live. Today saw Song of Iron release, which is a fantastic game by Joe Winter. It's another solo developed game. Definitely check that out. And Lake, which is by other friends of mine, which is a really chill adventure game.
Oh yeah, I saw that
A
one.
Postman.
Hmm.
It's beautiful. It's just completely different and original to it. It's very chill, and there's no secret aliens in it. Just literally about being a postman and dealing with people, which I think is fantastic.
Hmm. Um, and then what are you currently playing when you have time?
Uh, I have 3 kids, so not
Yeah.
I did play a couple of games. I played Frostpunk, which I really
Oh
like.
yeah, I
Super
was trying that out the other
inspirational.
day.
Yeah, definitely thinking about that for our next game. Very inspirational because
Hmm.
it's the political storytelling that's a little bit a part of the Falconeer as well. So there's no hero in Frostpunk, but it's a gripping story. You're not necessarily even the leader. You're just watching it unfold. And then when that storm hits, you're going to go fuck, and everybody's dying, and it
Yeah.
feels like people are eating each other, like it's going to shit. It's thrilling game. What else did I play? I played Humankind a little bit.
Hmm.
Uh, well, yeah, that's on Game Pass as well. Uh, and that was fun. It looks very beautiful. Great art directions by Amplitude, and really some of the best 3D world tiling. The mountain ridges on that are. You just play the game to. I don't ever want to leave the classical age because then it fills up with cities, but you know
Hmm.
the landscape's so nice. So and a while back I had a chance to play. What's that? I forget the name of it. It's this medieval game, this super realistic medieval RPG. Um, Kingdom Come Deliverance. Have
Yeah,
you played that?
I haven't
So
played it. I saw videos
I
and.
played Kingdom Come Deliverance, and the first 4 hours I hated it. People tell this about my game as well, so sorry. really hard and it's too realistic, and you're literally playing an hour, chasing chickens or whatever. It's like village life. There's no action and then you gotta run away. And then I accidentally did some DLC where I become a farm girl for 4 hours, which I had to finish. But once you pass that, when the world opened up, it is an astonishing medieval simulation open world. It's really an entire part of Czechoslovakia, no, that's Czechia, Czech Republic, Hungary, that area, next to Prague. Uh, and it's completely, the monasteries, it's literally that environment brought to life the Middle Ages until to, the people that make shoes. It's all the food ingredients, dishes you can make. Even the sword fighting, which is a little bit clunky because it's super realistic. I've done some HEMA style sword fighting, so European medieval martial arts. And theirs is definitely done by a sword master because they have all the proper hand movements, poses, medieval styles of fighting, and that I blew me away. And then the story is gripping. It's a fantastic, accurate, realistic story. It's like I didn't even know the games like that had if someone said that will exist, I have no chance now. How can that be successful? But in today's market, it can be super successful and was fantastically made. Can't gush enough about it.
No, it's cool that there's so many different types of games to play. Like I go from playing like a tiny little indie game that might just do like one thing to like a
Yeah.
huge game like Ghost of Tsushima that does a bunch of stuff.
I did sometimes. I played some of the smaller indie games. I played someone by the female designer called Chisana Isu. It's called Desert Sailor or Desert Racer. I'll have to look it up again. But you're basically a land sailor in an infinite desert, and it's like a poem. It's like game poetry. It's like it's about her father, and there's these mysterious statues and a giant wall, and then little bits of poetry float up. It's not for your average gamer, but for me it was highly poetic. She's a musical composer. She made all the music herself. Uh, I find stuff like that is like a work of art. You really have to appreciate it as a work of art that you're experiencing, and then it's very emotive. So I also recommend. I think it's on HIO. So yeah, I love small stuff, big stuff,
Yeah.
whatever grabs me. I just like big emotional triggers, I guess.
No, I guess that's all I got for you today.
All right,
But
okay,
thank
great.
you so
Well,
much for your time.
I'll tell you
But I'll
in the
let you
future,
know.
and I'll amplify. Super
Yeah.
cool, man.
No, and I'll keep playing the game. The
Great to hear.
game's a lot of fun.
All right, glad to hear it. I'm gonna go to bed actually.
Yeah.
No, thanks for having me, and looking forward to seeing the end result.
Yeah, no, it was very nice to meet you. And good luck with everything.
Excellent.
Right, bye.
Cheers, man.
We sing of heroes and warriors, build castles and temples for them, not just to reward them, but to shape the path that leads to them. No being runs towards their own demise. All must be tricked into doing so. You always end with me. You always return here. In more ways than you can imagine. Persist and try again. And perhaps we will meet here again, changed.